Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. So the Arctic Refuge Defense Campaign itself is a broad coalition of environmental organizations and indigenous voices who are all opposing oil and gas drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And here in Charleston, we are building broad public support to demonstrate to our elected officials, to presidential candidates, and also to oil corporations that Americans do not want oil and gas drilling to take place in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, and that we value protecting our wild spaces over short-term profits. So the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is a pretty big place up in North Alaska. It is about the size of South Carolina itself, and it has immense environmental and cultural importance. It sustains over 200 species of migratory birds, animal species such as polar bears and the caribou, and for thousands of years it has sustained the Gwich'in indigenous people who have spiritual and cultural ties to the Arctic Refuge and to the caribou that live up there. And yet, despite its national, international, and local importance, the Arctic Refuge has been the subject of a raging debate about whether or not to drill for oil and gas up there for the last 40 years. And in 2017, Congress, through the Tax and Cuts Job Act, opened up the Arctic Refuge to oil and gas drilling. And since then, the Department of the Interior has barreled forward, disregarding the biological, cultural, and climate impacts of extracting fossil fuels in the rapidly warming Arctic. So just last month, the Trump administration released the final environmental impact statement, which basically gave the green light for oil and gas drilling to happen as soon as possible. The impact statement gave no meaningful protection to the land and no meaningful protection to the animals, and it did not take into account the testimony and traditional history of the Gwich'in people. And it did not take into account the impacts that drilling will have on polar bears and caribou in the Arctic Refuge. And so furthermore, the economic benefits have been dramatically overstated by the Trump administration. They have been quoted as saying that an acre of land will go for $7,500 when actually the average is $41. So they are misrepresenting the facts economically and in relation to the climate. So the good news is that momentum is currently on our side. We are seeing actions from the U.S. House of Representatives, who passed HB 1146, the Arctic Cultural and Coastal Plague Protection Act, which would prohibit drilling on the Arctic Refuge. In addition, the Senate also passed a bill which would designate the Arctic Refuge as a wilderness and would mean that no oil and gas drilling would be able to take place there. We are also seeing banks and corporations reevaluate whether or not they want to drill there. And so this is big news. And so here in Charleston, we are building on that momentum. And we have a coalition of 16 local businesses who will oppose oil and gas drilling in the Arctic Refuge, as well as 487 Charlestonians who have signed our petition to stop oil and gas drilling in the Arctic Refuge. And we are inviting people to join us in this fight, to sign onto our coalition letter as organizations, businesses, and individuals. And we are moving forward with this campaign in that regard. And I am so honored today to have two wonderful speakers, the first of whom is Queen Quet, who is the chiefess of the Gullah Geechee Nation. Queen Quet is an environmentalist, she's a preservationist, she's a community leader, and an environmental justice advocate. And she has been a leading voice on opposing oil and gas drilling on our coast here. And so I'm honored to have her to speak with us today. Queen Quet.
Way in the water, way in the water, children, way in the water. God wants trouble the water. Down here in the Gullah Geech'in Nation, I know what they yell these kind of songs coming across the water and things like that. Boy, say, God, why trouble the water? Every say, man, why trouble the water? But we see now, we ain't care if it's in the Arctic or it's here in the Gullah Geech'in Nation. We got man trying for trouble the water like they done do in the Gulf, where they dig up all of this shit, black gold from underneath the water. But right here in the Gullah Geech'in Nation, the black gold, they up on top of the water. And we done crack we teeth. We done stand up. We done say, where want show? Come up out the water. Because when they come up at the water, they take over the line. Anyway, God be had them. And we have a technician day for stand. So we, the Gullah Geechee Nation, come for say, we stand with the Gwich'in Nation against this drilling in the Arctic and things like that. So even though Yana, they're not cracky teeth like this year, they talk more like this. They're with our Gwich'in family that's there in the Arctic, that's on the front lines of the other shore. We crack them like this year on this front line, on this shore. And interestingly enough, it is because of us as indigenous people, it is because of us speaking out about our cultural heritage that is within the environments of these two shores, both in the southeast and in the Arctic, where the wildlife still is, where we, our cultural groups, take refuge amongst the forest, where we live in balance and harmony with the land and the creatures. It is because of this that we hosted the Gwich'in Nation many years ago here. And you'll see in 2016, they presented me with this that said, we are working as one, that showed all of the indigenous people that are standing up against oil drilling in the Arctic, against their cultural assimilation and annihilation, just as we've done here in the Gullah Geechee Nation. And here is an image of us all together on my home island, St. Helena Island, proudly with the flags of our two nations, showing how we were united, how we are comrades in this battle to protect the natural environment and to make sure that for future generations, all of us as human beings can stand and be at peace along with the other living beings like the caribou, the herds that go through there, like the deer that are herds that go through here. Here it is that as we stand here today, I decided I would make sure my colors matched with the colors that they gave me. And the first thing that the Creator had me pull out was this outfit that has peacocks on it. The peacocks represent love, compassion, and renewal. If there's anything we need to be talking about right now in the environmental movement and protecting cultural heritage in the face of climate change, we need to be talking about renewable sources of energy. We don't need to be talking about going back to the old tradition of digging up oil or using coal. These things are contributing to the rapidly melting ice that exists where the Arctic is. This is what made the place beautiful enough for us to say it's a national treasure, to make it a refuge for all of us to go there and find solace and to find peace. We have national wildlife refuges throughout the Gullah Geechee Nation. We go there to find solace, to find peace, to shout in the wilderness like we ancestors been doing things like that. Where there been a renewing spirit to say we can stand, we will stand, and we will continue to fight together. And with the Gullah Geechee Nation and our people, we are working together as one, and we will continue to do so. We thank the U.S. Congress, the people who voted to say in both places, we will not allow oil to be dug for. We will not allow seismic gun testing, and we will continue to stand by those that stood by us, and we stand together working as one. So for all of our people in the Arctic, know that you have allies here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, because it is about us protecting the earth together. We are working as one. One earth, one people, one humanity. Let's show that we have humanity and live in balance with our environment. Work together, children. Don't you get weary. Great camp still a meet in the promised land. Thank you, thank you. All right.
Thank you so much for those very powerful words. I'm very grateful that we are here standing with the GWICHIN today. And I would like to introduce our second speaker, who is Dr. Annette Watson. She's the director of the Masters of Environmental Studies program at the College of Charleston. And Dr. Watson has done considerable research on the circumpolar north and has worked with a variety of hunters, fishermen, and indigenous people, including the Gwich'in, on the politics of natural resource management. And we are very grateful to have her here today to speak to us about the impacts on wildlife and corporate accountability that comes with drilling. So thank you, Dr. Watson.
Something people easily forget is how any of our purchases and consumption patterns affect places and peoples far away from where we live. We are affecting the Arctic when we allow drilling for oil in the Arctic Refuge. We are affecting the Gwich'in people who live in the Arctic and who subsist in that ecosystem. If drilling is approved, the wildlife of the Arctic Refuge will be deeply impacted. The Arctic Refuge supports the greatest diversity of plant and animal life in the circumpolar region. This includes the porcupine caribou herd, polar bears, wolves, musk oxen, Dall sheep, Arctic foxes, the spawning stream of a variety of fishes, including Dolly Varden, and nearly 200 species of migratory birds that nest in the refuge. A recent study noted that we in the United States, in North America, lost 40% of all our bird populations. The birds that nest in the Arctic migrate from the Arctic across 6 continents and all of our 50 states. As for polar bear, 77% of the Arctic Refuge coastal plain is designated as critical habitat. Consumers, all of us, need to make corporations accountable to public opinion. Surveys indicate that few Americans support drilling in the Arctic. In addition, a recent collective of investors with over $2.5 trillion in assets submitted a letter to oil companies and banks cautioning them against the financial risks of drilling, given both the potential consumer backlash and the expense of drilling where the land is already changing due to melting permafrost. Energy corporations are already projecting that if the average temperature rises just 2 degrees Celsius, fossil fuels will not burn efficiently, and many of these corporations are already diversifying to include cleaner energy sources. We need to keep the pressure on to continue the commitment to this shift to cleaner energy solutions. If you believe in capitalism like I do, you know it is our role as consumers to make our demands clear. We are the market, and supply needs to respond to our demand, not the other way around. We need to make these energy corporations accountable to our demand of cleaner energy. Clean energy does not jeopardize jobs, it creates them. Clean energy does not jeopardize the stability of an entire ecosystem. We should not allow oil drilling in places where it could radically alter a place where local people, the Gwich'in, have asked us not to alter. We have other options, while the Gwich'in will be robbed of their options. There are many risks, and we need to trust the wisdom of the local peoples who are asking not to bear the burden of these risks for us. We need to be more responsible consumers of energy. Other technologies are available for energy solutions that do not unjustly place the risk within this small community of rural Americans. The caribou, polar bear, migrating birds, fishes, muskox, Dall sheep, all of those species are important to our whole planet. The Arctic is far away, but we are still responsible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annette, and thank you all for being here today as we stand with the Gwich'in in opposing oil and gas drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, today, tomorrow, and into the future as long as we can. Thank you all.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. All right, I got everything you said up there, but really for the folks of South Carolina and Charleston in particular, why should they care about the Arctic?
Now, I know a lot of people in South Carolina are saying, well, why in the world are they doing a story about the Arctic here? That's so far away from us. But what's so close to us is the fact that there's a threat of offshore drilling here. There is a threat of offshore drilling in the Arctic, and that would speed up climate change dynamics, like all of the melting of the glaciers some of us have watched online. So if we think we have sea level rise in Charleston now, think about what will happen if all that other water enters the waters. It's one global ocean, really, and it will make its way to our shore. So as far away as you think it is, it's actually really close to home.
Was it encouraging to see the House of Representatives vote no for the drilling in the Arctic?
It was beyond encouraging to see the House of Representatives finally listen to reason from the people who are their constituents and vote no to offshore drilling, no to seismic gun testing. It was encouraging to see the South Carolina General Assembly vote to make sure that offshore drilling rigs can't be placed anywhere here or infrastructure placed on the coastline of South Carolina. So they're definitely going in the right direction. And so we want the Senate to join in with the House and do this, not only for the Atlantic, but for the Arctic as well.
Obviously a conversation that needs to continue. If anyone sees this and wants to get involved, how can they do that?
Oh yes, we have a petition online to stand with us against offshore drilling in the Arctic Wildlife Refuge. And so if they sign on, that's the way to get involved, stay tuned. We ain't going nowhere, we the Benya, and the Gwich'in ain't going nowhere neither.
Perfect. Thank you so much.